Hi guys, welcome back to the Daily Dreamer. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out with me for a dream today. Alright, so we're just going to get started with this one. This one was fun. So, I wake up and I come to and I am sitting at a table. The room is full of tables. The room is real bright, like white. Okay, the tables, it was like shades of yellow and white. It was just a bright room. Anyways, I'm sitting at a table. And I must just be early everywhere I go because I'm early and I can tell because people are still filing in the room. And by people, I mean like entities and stuff, okay? So you got different types of creatures coming in from different dimensions. You've got entities, you've got humans, you've got them all there. They're all piling in. All right, so we're here to have a discussion, although for some reason I feel like I'm there for something else. Because at this point during the dream, I'm actually just observing. I can hear the discussions they're discussing, and I know what they're discussing. They're discussing us here on Earth. So I thought, well, it's best just to keep quiet and take in all the information that I can. I knew I was there for some reason, and it looks like maybe to bring back some information. But as the discussions were happening, there were heated debates, there were conversations, there were, solutions, there were people making jokes. I mean, all kinds of things going on. The heated debates and discussions got a little loud because there were some entities that were not rooting for us, if you will, and they had other things to say about where they think that we should be going. And so we'll discuss that here in a little bit. But anyways, going on through the conversation, there was a gentleman who who stepped forward to give his 2 cents, if you will. And he came in, the doors were behind me, and he comes in and he stands literally like right next to me. I'm sat down at the table. He comes in. Now, I remember looking up at him, and I mean, this man, he was very human-like in his features, but you could clearly tell that he was not a human. He reminded me of the mantis beings because he was so incredibly tall. So tall that I actually stood up next to him and didn't even come like halfway to like where he was. Like he was just very tall. I also remember stating like 3 times how tall he was. And at one point, and this is why he reminded me that he was like a mantis being, because of the way that the 3rd time I said, "My God, you are just so tall." He unfolded his hands like what I thought a mantis would, and just simply patted me on my head, like, shh, I'm talking, and then went back. So it was a very interesting being that was standing next to me, but he was actually advocating for Earth, for us, if you will. And so the meeting continued on. Everyone's discussing. I'm trying to take it all in, and at one point there's this bright light, and it just comes in the room, and I am just blinded. I am just like, nah, I can hear the chitter chatter. I can't make out the conversation. So I imagined at that point I was being blinded because I wasn't privy to this part of the meeting. In fact, I was more like in a bubble of, being mesmerized. And then finally the light dissipated and the room went back to being its normal brightness or whatever. And at that point, then things were hushed. Then there became like this, I don't know, like a plan or something that was being divided up. People were giving tasks out to people. Upon receiving their tasks, afterwards, some people stayed for this meeting. I chose to get up and get out of the room because I didn't really understand what I was doing there outside of just simply to receive the information. So I step outside the room, and by stepping outside the room, there was like another smaller room, and then I went outside because I could see the doors open. It was outside. So I get outside, and I am on a mountain, and there is a road in front of me, like a gravel road, and there is a very steep cliff. There is another entity that is standing with his back towards the cliff. He is standing, and he's like 2 inches away from literally falling off this cliff. About another inch in front of him was a beautiful, just gorgeous, restored antique car one that I had never seen before. It had a long front end. The color of this car struck me because I am not a brown color person, like in my clothes and whatnot. Like brown just doesn't. But this brown was so beautiful. It was like a coffee mixed with some cream, that kind of a colored brown. It was beautiful. But what struck me was the car itself was lined in gold. So it had gold. And I remember these, what looked to be like an exhaust pipe in the front of the car. And it was all gold as well. And I thought how odd that the exhaust pipes would be in front. The entity was bragging about the car, how long it took to restore it, And then the mantis being come out and he stands next to me and he says, tell her about the rockets, the rocket launchers. And so he was all proud of that, showing me the rocket launcher. Well, it turns out what I thought was the exhaust pipe was the rocket launcher. And I said, what's that for? He said, so in case anyone should try to mess with it, it's got its own little defense, its own little protection system. And what came to my mind was, well, that's not going to do any good for you should you happen to have this car fall off that cliff because you're so close to it. And then he looked down. My knees were buckling, but he looked down, and then he looked at me as if to give me an answer. And what happens? I don't know. I was whisked back to consciousness. So, wow, what a crazy dream, right? What do you think it meant? Well, let's go find out, shall we? All right, guys, so what do you think that dream meant? I tell you, when I sat down to meditate on it, what came up for me was the fact that, honestly, I felt like I was there being reprimanded, pretty much to say, keep your 2 cents out of things that don't matter, topics, don't egg people on. You're part of this. You need to take this back instead of this. You need to stop doing this. That's the feeling that I felt, because I was just more like, why am I here listening to all this? It appears this meeting has all of the ascended masters and all of the, grid workers, light beings, that they have finally decided that they were going to leave Earth in its entirety. It appears that they have taken all of their information back about us to pitch in and give their 2 cents worth so that decisions can be made about what's going to happen to us folks. At that point, they took it to the High Council, and the High Council sat there with everybody, and they did their discussions, The heated debates came, people were arguing, people were laughing, making jokes about us, They decided that they were going to go ahead and just give up. But then guess what? Someone came up with some other answer other than giving up, And what they want to do is they want to go ahead and they want to give you answers to take care of what's going on down here. Most importantly, they want you to understand that these answers were taken to source. Okay, and I think that's when the light came in and I was blinded. I couldn't hear the conversation. They were at that point, because once that light happened, it appeared that the absolute source agreed with them, gave them the implementation for this plan to happen, and now they were to divvy up the tasks, okay? It seems like source gave us a very clear task. He wants to go ahead, or it wants to go ahead and speed up the preparation of the third dimensional Earth for full entry into Gaia's gateways to Sourceville, aka Absolute Verse. It's to be done quickly as possible. That's what the plan is. The problem is that there's a couple of these entities up there that have a different perspective about us down here, and they're saying things like this. They will never, ever elevate themselves. So they should have an extension back to 1.1 dimension, maybe even lower, because they can't seem to get, their heads together. They're choosing this route of egomania. So treat them as such. So this isn't good for us. This does not look good for us, folks, because they're done. They're fed up. Okay, it takes a lot of patience when you're dealing with children. Okay, but it seems like we need to go ahead and get our acts together, and we need to start coming together to try to find love and balance within ourselves. And because, guys, if we can't seem to get together to figure it all out, then our world is going to be in for a very long and agonizing ride for us if we cannot seem to elevate ourselves for this transition to happen. We have got to stop with the me first out there and understand that, guys, we are all in this together. How many of you out there have been taking 5 minutes a day to sit with yourself? How many of you understand what makes you happy? How many of you take 5 minutes a day to sit there and to love yourself and to tell yourself that things are going to be okay for you because that is what you desire? How many of you are doing it? How many are elevating yourself mentally? You know, the absolute, that he took a moment and he looked really hard into us during the time between 2012 and 2019. And what he was doing was he was searching for the best possible way for our ride, Earth's ride, into the quantum transition. He weighed all of the absolute different types of scenarios, the conversations happened, and guess what? Now with all of that said and done, today the discussion is over. They have decided a very clear plan has been adopted, and its implementation for us has begun. And you have to be ready for that. So since June 21st of 2020, there has been a special order on Earth that has been introduced, and it's called the Incarnation Quarantine. With that quarantine order, okay, there came an update, and that update was about the health of Earth. And this is literally what they said. The diagnosis of Earth 3D. The planet is very seriously ill. It is in a state very close to critical. What they were saying was that the Earth needs to be urgently cleansed, treated, healed, and restored. That is what they're saying. First and foremost on a very physical plane, because we are in dire need, folks. Only then they were going to go ahead and discuss us entering the gateways of Gaia, how we're supposed to. They say that Gaia constantly devotes too much energy into humanity with resources that she doesn't even have enough to supply for herself and her own healing. So guess what? As a result, the plan was created and it's already began, okay? And that is a global rehabilitation of the 3D Earth so that it can be as humane, as fast, and as painless as possible for all 7 billion people here. All right? Well, so guys, when can we expect this great quantum transition to happen? Well, they say not before 2021 to 2023. They're not going to do it anytime, any quicker than, at the very minimum, Earth's fourth dimensional field being up for us, maybe even later. So guys, their plan for the great quantum transition needs everyone to be prepared. They're not just going to yank us up there if you're not ready. So you got to get ready. Take 5 minutes a day. How do you get ready? Well, individually and collectively, we need to understand everyone needs intensive training for this energy upgrade. You're not just going to be able to handle it without any issues if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know what's coming. All right, so that's why you got to get prepared. So individually and collectively, we can do that, but we got to be aware. All right, we're given some things to start. First of them is take your 5 minutes a day. All right. The other one is to help Earth. All right. It needs to be supported with new vibrations, different frequencies. We are here to prepare it for the great cleansing. Okay. We have to do that by supporting with love frequencies, opening your heart chakras, not reacting, not acting out of here, but acting out of your heart. Okay. Your source. As for the world events, they're going to go ahead and let them play themselves out. They're going to let them have their feeble attempts. But they do want the world events to understand that, you know, the light forces have agreed to intervention should threats happen that make us go the other way, that they can step in and they will step in. They're not messing around anymore, guys. We are all having to come together. And at some point, we need to realize that all of our different perspectives have us here fighting with nothing but vengeance, and we're at each other's throats, you know, because of why? What reason? Because of the actions of the ego. If we don't grow up and you know, we're going to end up paying for those shallow mental attitudes. We've got to come together. We've got to stop being kids. We got to wake up, folks. We got to stop saying that we are purging each other. It's not ridding the world of negative vibrations. Instead, we're encouraging it. You know, what would you do to save the planet? Where do you see your starting point? The starting point has got to be right here. Right here. That is where you start, folks. Change has got to come from within. If you want to achieve the outcome that you desire, you've got to start right here. Become what you want to see. How can you love another until you actually love yourself. Speak your truth. The truth that the love that you truly feel for yourself is all that you really have to offer. And with that, we can do anything. All right. At this point, if you are able to open your heart chakra and love others, stop the blame game, stop the name calling game, stop the greed game. If you have to be greedy, then be greedy in your giving to others. Enjoy your life with all of your opinions. But guys, find beauty and unity with love for each other, as well as others' opinions. Because that's when we'll all be able to come together and actually just, get ourselves into 40 and get to a state where we all actually finally want for ourselves, because we deserve it. Guys, until next stream, thanks so much for joining me for Daily Dreamer. Many blessings to you.